So we're going to look at some examples of setting up and using view templates here in this video. So I'm starting in the architectural power plan, and what I want to do is capture everything that we've established here in this power plan and apply it to the second floor. Because if you look here, I've duplicated a level 2 architectural power plan, but it's still showing the site information and it doesn't quite look the same. So I want to customize that now. So rather than try and remember what all the settings were that I did in the first floor, I'll just simply go back to the level 1 power plan here and create a view template. So I'm going to go to the view tab, and there's a view templates drop down right here, and we want to choose create a template from the current view and give it a name. So I'm going to call this typical power plan and click OK. Now that will create the view template, and it will display the view templates dialog and show you all the settings that have been captured in that view template and give you an opportunity to further customize them. So we were mainly concerned with VG overrides for model right here, but notice that it includes all the visibility graphic overrides. It includes the scale, model display, whether shadows are turned on, background settings, etc. So it includes literally anything to do with the configuration of this view. So this is a very, very powerful command. Now you can even uncheck things that you don't want to include, but in this case, I'm going to accept all the defaults here and simply click OK. And that creates that view template, and it's now ready for use. So how do I use it? Well, I'll just switch back over here to the level 2 power plan, use the same drop-down menu, but this time I'm going to apply the template properties to a current view, and I'll choose typical power plan and click OK, and it's really just that easy. So now you're going to notice that the second floor power plan matches the display of the first floor one. So there's one small issue that I noticed though. Previously we had set the furniture to halftone, and it appears as though that setting has been disabled. So I'm not sure why that is, but one of the advantages of view templates is if you discover something wrong with a view, you can just simply recreate the view template and do it again. So I'm going to go to Visibility Graphics, and I'm going to locate the furniture category, select it, turn on halftone, click OK. So now the furniture is all half-toned. I'm working in the second floor, but it doesn't really matter because you can capture the view template in either floor. I'll go back to view templates, create template from the current view, and what you want to do is type the same name. When you do and click OK, it will tell you that that already exists and ask you if you want to replace it. And I'll answer yes. Again, you get to confirm the settings. I'll click OK. And now I have created an updated version of the power plan. However, it's important that you understand that you've only updated the view template at this point. You have not updated any of the views. So there's two methods to using view templates. The method I'm showing you now allows you to create the view template, and then you choose when you want to apply it and how. So if I want to reapply it to the first floor, I would simply repeat the process here and apply the template properties to the current view, choose typical power plan, click OK, and now it matches the second floor. But notice that the process of creating and applying it is still a manual process, but you can easily reapply it once you've made updates. Now, it turns out that there's a slightly faster way to do this. You can do it on the project browser. So I could have selected level 1 architectural power, hold the control key down, level 2 architectural power, and then with both of those views selected, and that could just as well be 10 views or 20 views, then you right click and apply view template is here, and then you would get the same opportunity to choose the view template and click OK. All right, so that's a little quicker than doing it one view at a time, but you would still need to apply it on a view-by-view basis. Now, let's say you don't want to do that. I don't want to have to apply it on a view-by-view basis. What I would rather have instead is for it to automatically be applied and automatically keep my views up to date. So let's look at that workflow using the furniture plan. So I'm going to double-click the level 1 furniture plan. And then I'm going to come up here to the quick access toolbar and close inactive views. So that's going to close both of the power plans and leave me with just the furniture plan. Now, the furniture plan already is correct because we've set up all these settings in an earlier video. So I'm going to go right to View Templates and choose Create a Template from the current view, give it a name, and then click OK. I'm satisfied with all the settings, so I'm going to OK again here. And now I have this view template. So here's the difference in how we're going to apply it this time. I'm going to select the level 1 architectural furniture plan and hold the control key down and level 2 architectural furniture plan. Now, I just showed you that we could right click. That's not what we're going to do here. What we're going to do instead is go to the properties. Up here, it'll say views 2. So we're applying properties to 2 views right now. And when I scroll down, you're going to notice that there is a view template setting here under identity data. It's currently set to none. I'm going to click that and choose the typical furniture plan and then click OK. So now if I double click to open up the level 2 furniture plan, you can see that it matches level 1. Now I'm going to do window tile. So tile the views or type WT so that we can see both of these furniture plans side by side. And now I want to show you how this alternative way of applying the view templates behaves. There are some consequences. If somebody comes into this view and decides they want to change the scale, everything's grayed out. What about the level of detail? What about the shading mode? Really anything that you see here, it's all grayed out. Suppose they want to change visibility graphics, VG. All of that is grayed out. Now, why is that? Well, because everything right now is currently being controlled by the view template. So that means if I want to change any settings whatsoever on any of my furniture plans, I need to return to the view template and modify it there. Now, how do I do that? Well, it turns out you can click the drop down and the final command on this menu is Manage View Templates. So I'm going to do that. Locate my typical furniture plan view template right there. And remember all these settings over here. Now you can change anything you like. So I'm going to do something that'll be really noticeable on the screen. So for VG overrides for model, I'm going to click Edit, scroll all the way down to the bottom, locate the walls category, and then over here in the cut column for patterns, I'm going to click the override button and I'm going to apply a solid fill pattern to the cut of the walls. And I don't want it to be solid black, so I'm going to choose something that's not quite as dark. Maybe I'll use this purple color right here and I'll click OK, OK again, and then one more time, and then finally dismiss the View Templates dialog. And now you're going to see that I have this solid fill purple poche applied automatically to any view that is using the furniture view template. So that's the difference in behavior if you choose to apply it selectively or if you choose to use it as a setting of the view. If it's done in visibility graphics, it's easy because you just go down through visibility graphics and you check and uncheck the boxes, right? So that's no big deal. But when it's done by object, you don't have anything like the visibility graphics dialog to go to. So how are you going to get these objects back? Well, there is a special display mode down here on the view control bar called Reveal Hidden Elements. And if you click that, it will put this colored border around the screen. It will tell you that you're in Reveal Hidden Elements mode. And then you could select one or more of the elements that you've hidden. And if you hover over them, it will tell you whether they're hidden by element or by category. So in this case, it knows that these columns were hidden by element. You can see it very clearly there. And then there's an unhide by element button right here, or the keyboard shortcut is EU. Now I've restored the visibility of those columns and I can turn off the temporary mode to return the display of the model to normal. So that's a very simple example of using element hide and then reversing the operation. Okay. Now I'm going to zoom out a touch and you'll notice that out here, there's still some site information. And in an earlier video, we hid that. Now, the way we did it in the earlier video is my preference. We went to visibility graphics and we located the categories in question and we hid those categories. And that's what I recommend that you do. But based on what we're covering in this video, you might be tempted to just simply select this and say, well, I don't actually want to see any of that site information. Why wouldn't I just hide the Revit link, right? So that's an object, and I could go up here and choose hide element. Problem solved, right? It hid the topo, it hid the parking, it hid any of the trees and the planting, all of that stuff. Well, you certainly could do that, but I prefer to do it, as I've already indicated, using the categories that we've done in the previous video. Or if you're not going to do it with the categories and you want to just hide the entire model, then there's also a way to do that in visibility graphics as well. If you go to VG, there's a Revit links tab, and you can actually uncheck the Revit link, which would have the effect of hiding it in this view. I think either doing that or coming over here and going category by category is the preferred way. But if you choose to do what I've just done and hide it by object, the only way anyone would be able to get it back is using the reveal hidden elements mode again. Now, when I go to this mode, it's interesting, right? Because it's not actually highlighting the Revit link in color, but it does say it's a hidden element if you hover over it. So that's one of the reasons that I don't love hiding it by object. So notice that the trees are showing up in the color, and that's because we previously hid that category. So it's a little tricky here if you hide with Revit links, and this is why I'm not really a fan of using hide by element for the links. So I'm going to select this and unhide it. And then, as I say, if you want it to be invisible, then either hide the categories or the link itself. So are there any good uses for hide by element then? Well, I think there's a few possibilities. What about this section right here? This is kind of a temporary section that we used when we were figuring out view range. And maybe I don't want to delete it, but I certainly don't want to see it in this view. So if I try to hide by category, it would hide all of my sections. So this section would disappear and any others as well. So I don't want that, but maybe I just want to hide this one. Well, that might be a good use for hide elements. Another possible scenario is maybe this reception desk is going to be provided by others. And so I don't want to confuse folks looking at this view into thinking that they need to install this item as well. So perhaps I would do hide element on that as well. The only trouble with that is you need to be very careful because remember, hide by element is view by view. So just because I hid it in the main architectural plan doesn't mean it's going to disappear in the other views as well. So you might find yourself having to hide this element in lots of different views, at which point, if that's occurring, you might want to think twice about your approach and think if there's a better way. But anyway, that is the hide by element command. It is definitely a powerful and useful command if you use it sparingly, but that's really the key. Make sure you're using it sparingly and trying not to overdo it. Throughout this chapter, we've looked at lots of ways to control the visibility of elements, and in the previous video, we did some manual modifications to the visibility and we hid a few elements. In this video, I'd like to show you what I consider to be a better alternative. We're going to look at something called display filters. Now, display filters are somewhere between what we were doing with visibility graphics and what we were doing with element level modifications. In this example, we're going to look at some filters that are already here in the model, and then we're going to create our own custom one. So for starters, I'm going to zoom out a little bit here in the floor plan, and I want to point out to you that there's a section line right here called section 1, and another one right below it called longitudinal section. And if you look at the two of those, you can see they look quite different. Longitudinal section is using solid line and it's a black color, but the section 1 is red and it's got this dashed line. So what's the difference? Why is it that the section 1 is displaying differently like that? Well, that is the consequence of a view filter that was part of the template that this file was based on. So if we consider the previous video, we had a section mark running down the middle of the break room and we decided to just simply hide it. We didn't want to see it anymore and we hid it. I'm going to bring that back now. So if you watched the last video, you know we can go to reveal hidden elements. That will reveal anything that's hidden. I can select that section and then I'm going to choose unhide element or EU, and then I'll turn off reveal hidden elements mode. And now I have this section back displayed again here in this view. Okay, what I want to do is I want to make this one behave the same as this one. So how is it that these are different? Well, it turns out that there's something called a display filter, which is changing the graphical display of section 1 based on the kind of section that it is. So if you select section 1, you'll notice that it is a working section. That's the name of the type that's assigned to it. So I can select this section right here, the one that I just unhid, and open up the type selector, and you will see that there are several choices here, including working section. So if I choose working section, watch what happens to our section at break room. It now matches the graphics of section 1. So next, let me explain to you how that happens, right? That is a display filter, okay? So let's take a look. I'm going to go over here to the View tab, and there's a Filters button right here. When the Filters dialog opens, you'll actually see that there are lots of filters in this file. Okay, all of these came from the template that this was started with, and most of them have to do with other disciplines, MEP and electrical and structural, but there are several that are useful for architectural here as well. Now, we're going to focus just on the one that we are looking at here for the sections, and it's called Views Working. Now, the first thing is that a filter will apply to one or more categories. So over here in the middle, you'll see categories. And the easiest way to see which categories this applies to is to check this box here, and that will hide anything that's not checked. So this filter, Views Working, is applying to callouts, elevations, and sections. And from all of those categories, it's looking at the family and type, and if the name contains the word working, then it triggers the filter. That's it. So the way you can think about a filter is, imagine it's just asking a question from the model. It's saying, hey, callouts, elevations, and sections, does your family and type name contain the word working? And if you kind of phrase it that way, like a yes/no question, it makes a lot more sense. So then the answer can only be yes or no. Yes, my name does contain working. No, it does not. If it contains working, then visibility graphics can kick in and change the graphics of that collection of objects. If it says no, then it's just simply ignored. So what I'm going to do now is cancel out of here. We didn't make any changes. And let's go to visibility graphics. And what you'll notice is there's a filters tab here. And the Views Working filter was already added to this view. That, again, came in as a consequence of the template that we started this project with. And this right here is why it's using a dashed red line. It's also set to halftone. So you can see that those are a little bit lighter as well. So anything that answers yes to the question is getting the dashed red line, and anything that is not is being ignored. Now we could go a step further. And earlier in the previous video, I decided I wanted to hide that section. I didn't want to see it anymore. Well, visibility is one of the choices here. So I could simply turn off the visibility, click OK. And now both of those working sections will disappear in this view. And of course, the other sections here, 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 those are unaffected. So that's a much more effective and powerful way to control the visibility of those elements, because you're able to create a subset of elements based on logical criteria and then only apply your modifications to that subset. Now, I should point out that everything I've just done is just in the architectural floor plan. So if I open up another view like the furniture plan, notice that the working sections are still displayed here. Now, they are dashed red. Okay, so the filter is applied here in VG and making it dashed red. It's just that it's still visible. Now notice I can't uncheck visibility, and you may recall why, because in an earlier video, we applied a view template to the furniture plans. So the way that you would have to modify the furniture plans to hide the visibility would be to edit the view template, which I could do by going to Manage View Templates, scrolling down, locating Furniture Plan, clicking over here on Filters, uncheck the visibility, and then OK out of all of this. And then it would disappear not only here, but also on the level 2 furniture plan, because it's using the same view template. So I'm going to close both of these furniture plans. For the last example in this video, let's consider the reception area. In the previous video, we hid the reception desk and its chair. So let's restore those now with unhide element. And then I'll turn off reveal hidden elements mode. And let's look for a better way to isolate these items. I'm going to select both of these items. And what I want to do is think about some way that I could establish that they are different than the other furniture in the model. Now, there's a number of ways we could do that, but one of the simplest things you can do is simply come over here to the comments field and put something in the comments. So I'm going to write by others in the comment field for those two items. That's step one. Step two is to go to filters and create a new filter. So I'm going to use the new icon down here. I will also call this by others. Click OK. And then in the middle here, I will check the furniture category. Now you can select more than one category if you want, but for this example, furniture by itself is suitable. Now you'll have a drop down over here of all the properties or questions that you can ask your furniture. Well, we put our information in comments, so that's what I want to query. I want to query the comments of the furniture and ask one of these questions. Is it equal to, does it begin with, is it greater than, etc. Now, there's a couple ways you could do it, but I'm just simply going to do equals, choose the value by others from the list here, and click OK. So now I have a question that says, hey, furniture, do your comments equal by others? So the final step is to go into visibility graphics and say what to do with the items that answer yes to that question. So here's visibility graphics. I'll go to filters. I will add a filter, and I'm going to add the one called by others. Click OK. And now what would you like to occur to the items that are answering yes here? I'm going to change the fill pattern to a solid fill, and I'll just choose this bluish color here. Okay, you can do whatever you want here, but when I click OK, notice that the reception desk and chair now change color, and it's very easy to tell that those are different somehow. Now, the cool thing about having this approach, doing it this way rather than right-clicking and selecting it individually, is if you go to any other item now and decide that it is also by others, it will immediately take on the characteristics established in the filter. In this video, I'm going to look at two different graphical tools to help us fine-tune the graphics in a view. The first one is going to be the line work tool, and then a little bit later, we'll look at depth queuing. So for the line work tool, I'm going to start here in this floor plan, this furniture floor plan, and I would like to see a dashed line indicating where the balcony is up above. So there's a balcony looking down into this reception space, and we really have no indication of that currently in the first floor plan. But if we open up the second floor plan, you may recall that we had this floor element kind of looking down into the space below. Now, I could just use detail lines like this and set them to dash lines and trace over that. That would be fine, except that there's a really good chance that if you later change the model in some way, that those detail lines would need to be manually updated, that they're not going to follow along. The line work tool is going to give us a better chance of keeping it associated with the underlying geometry. So that's what I want to show you here. Now, in order to use the line work tool, I need to be seeing the object that I want to modify. That's the floor in this case, and it's not currently visible. Easiest way to make it visible is to turn on the underlay in this floor plan. So instead of none, I'm going to set that to L2 and then apply that. And now you'll see ghosted in this gray line indicating where the floor element is up above. So next, what I'm going to do is zoom in nice and close here, and I want to show you how the line work tool functions. So we're going to go to modify, and the line work tool is right here, or LW. And what you want to do is choose a line style from this list right here. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and there's this one called wide red. And I'm going to touch this diagonal line right here, and then maybe this edge of the column. Now, I'm going to click the modify tool to cancel out. And so what's really interesting about the line work tool is you can touch individual edges of the underlying geometry and customize just that edge. So it didn't do the whole column, it just did that one edge of the column. Now, you might be looking at this and thinking that's great, but what if I change my mind? How would I reverse it? That's not at all intuitive. So I want to go through that first before we continue here. So let's go back to the line work tool, and the way that you reverse this effect is to open up the list of choices here and change it back to by category. Okay. And then you touch the same edges over again, and they will return to displaying the way the category told them to rather than the override that you've applied. Okay, so now that you understand how to use the line work tool, now we can apply it to get the effect that we were after, which is to display a dashed line overhead. And it turns out that there's a line type here just for that purpose. It's called overhead. And I'll click that, and I'll touch this little horizontal line, the diagonal line, and then the vertical line here. And that will, of course, go down the full length of the floor element. Now, you no longer need to see the underlay to keep this effect. You can set it back to none. And notice that when you do, the dashed line still continues to display. This dashed line is the floor. So notice that if I move my mouse there, that actually selects the floor. You could click Edit Boundary and try changing the shape of that floor. As long as you change the shape in such a way that you're basically just moving some of the lines around, it should continue to apply the dashed line. If you radically change the shape and add new edges and so forth, then you'll probably need to customize the line work modifications that you've made. Okay, so just feel free to experiment with that if you like to see that a little further.